at the University Southern Carolina. He is also principal consultant. Now, he will be presenting about mapping your digital footprint.
All right. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Can everyone hear me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How's everybody doing? Great, great. Well, I am really excited to be here today. I'm going to be talking about how to map your digital footprint. So before I go on to the presentation, I just want to let you guys know I'm very active on social media. So if you guys aren't following me on social media, if you guys find something interesting in this presentation that you want to tweet, feel free to do so. I have lots of graphs and charts and quotes and things like that that'll make for great social media content. All right, so let's dive right into it. Now, just to let you know a little bit more about myself, my name is Junte Delane, and I am a digital branding evangelist, which means I love to talk about digital branding. And today I'm going to talk about specifically how content is used to build that digital brand. And in particular, I want to talk about how your digital brand is able to convert your customers and influence their purchasing decisions. Now, I also am the founder of Digital Branding Institute. Now, that's essentially a place where you can find out all the information needed when it comes to building a digital brand, focusing on your identity, your visibility, and your credibility in the digital space. I also am the founder and CEO of Digital Delane, which is an agency. We basically launch digital brands, everything from the strategy to development to digital brand management. Now, for today, I want to talk about a few things. Here's the agenda. I'm going to talk about what is a digital footprint and how you're able to use that digital footprint to impact your digital brand, or that's where your brand lives online. And then I'm going to talk about how to map it. There are many things that you can do to enhance your digital brand visibility. By mapping your digital brand is a great way to figure out how your target audience is interacting with your brand in the digital space. And then once you've mapped your digital brand or your digital footprint, I'm going to talk about different ways that you're able to optimize it. So you may see during mapping your digital footprint, you may see content that's missing the mark. You may see a campaign that's off, or you may see something that should be removed online. So I'm going to talk about different ways you're able to optimize each and every one of those places of where your digital brand and where your digital footprint is. All right, so just to clarify, and I want to make sure that we all are on the same page here. So when I talk about a digital footprint, I mean where your brand lives online. And I would also include where your brand does not live online but should live online as a part of your digital footprint. Now, we also think about a consumer's digital footprint, right? That's when I say footprint, you probably are thinking like, okay, what am I putting out on social media that contributes to the perception of myself or my company? So we often think about what our loved ones are putting out online because we may feel like whatever they're putting out online could have a negative impact on them getting a job or getting into a program or something like that. So when I talk about a consumer's digital footprint, I'm sure you guys are thinking about that. But in particular, I want to look at all the data that consumers are generating when they download content, when they send a tweet, when they post something on Instagram, when they purchase an app. All of these individual things are creating data points. Now, as you know, as businesses, we take a look at all of this consumer's digital footprint, and we try to create profiles for those consumers, which means that once we create a profile, we know exactly what these consumers like, what their challenges are, and we're able to use this profile to see how we can market to them better. Now, here's what's interesting. When it comes to privacy, this is a major concern, especially in the US. And as you probably know, I'm not sure if you guys have watched the Mark Zuckerberg testimony for the U.S. Congress, but he was grilled because of the privacy issue, and also how the privacy issue has essentially affected the political outcome of the U.S. election, or at least have influenced, let's say that, the political outcome. And so this is a hot button topic. But I think it's something that as marketers and business owners, we should all understand. If you guys are in the social media space, you have to watch things like this that are going on in the industry, because ultimately it's going to affect the way in which you're able to create content and distribute that content through social networks. So we have to start to understand social business. Now, data collection comes in two ways. One is through tracking technologies, and the other one is the data that consumers voluntarily give. So some of the tracking technologies include web cookies. We're all familiar with web cookies, right? We put a cookie on the machine, and next thing you know, you'll have ads following you all around the internet. Whether it's information that you're sharing online for voluntary information, through emails that you send, through SMS text messages, through your credit card purchases. I know American Express knows I'm here right now because of all of my purchases, right? They're continuously collecting information on me and creating a profile. Also through in-app purchases as well. A lot of you guys may not know that apps want to talk to each other. Facebook wants to know what you're using when you're even not on the app. Or if you guys are using an Uber app, Uber wants to know if you're using Lyft as well to compare prices. And so all of these are ways in which businesses collect information on consumers so they can build a profile and market to them accordingly. Now here's what's interesting. Consumers are becoming savvier, which means that just like we as marketers and business owners are collecting information on our consumers to see how much value they can give to our company, our consumers are doing the same thing for our organizations. Yes, for the organizations that we represent, these consumers are looking at us. They're looking at the organization's digital footprint. Now, here's how they're doing it. I mentioned to you earlier there's different ways that businesses collect information to see if these consumers are valuable to their bottom line. Well, here's the ways in which your consumers are looking at your organization's digital footprint. They're looking at your hub. This is all the information or where you want your consumers to go. This could be your website. This could be a microsite. This could be a particular campaign. They're looking at your paid platforms. You know, what type of advertising are you doing? And is it the right advertising? Meaning, does the advertising have the right context? And that's one of my dilemmas with programmatic advertising, is that your ad can be shown in places that don't provide great context with the messaging of that ad. And it's one of the reasons why, if, let's say, a radio or television personality says something negative, they automatically lose sponsorships, because consumers are looking at the sponsors who are sponsoring these platforms to see what they're going to do, if they're going to voice their opinion about what that host or that personality has said, and how that statement has negatively impacted the individuals. And so I think it's very important when you look at where you're putting your advertising dollar, because it represents who you are, and in some cases, even what you believe in as a brand. They also are looking at your own platforms, obviously your website. They want to make sure that, do you have an up-to-date website? Does your website load fast? Are they able to access the information they need on a mobile device? They also look at your earned media. And earned media is essentially what people are saying about your brand, even through dark social, through direct messaging. They're looking at are you actually engaging with people in a timely fashion? That's your brand health. If they go to your social media account and they see you haven't posted anything in a month, or they see that someone has commented on a piece of content that you released and you still haven't responded to that comment, that gives them an idea of what your brand is all about. And again, they're taking each of these individual points about your digital footprint to see if your organization can provide value to them. So, why map your digital footprint? Well, it's important because you want to see how your consumers are interacting with your brand in the digital space. You want to see every single interaction that they're having because it'll guide your campaigns going forward. Based on this statistic, this survey from the Verse Group and Jupiter Research, 63% of US CMOs and marketing managers think traditional brand positioning and advertising are losing their effectiveness and are broken. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you in here are still utilizing marketing practices from 5 years ago? What about 3 years ago? What I'm trying to prove here is that sometimes as marketers and business owners, we get stuck doing the same thing over and over and over again. And our consumer behavior is changing. What they did 5 years ago is not what they're doing now. And I think that when I work with clients, some people have built businesses off of behaviors of consumers that were relevant 5 years ago. And they wonder why they're not getting the results that they need. I believe that traditional marketing is very invasive. But not only is traditional marketing invasive, but traditional digital marketing is also invasive. And that's probably a term that you guys haven't heard of, traditional digital marketing. But I think we're getting to that point now. Because as marketers, we're starting to do the same thing over and over again and adopt those principles that are found in traditional marketing practices. Meaning, we have a campaign that we have to get out, so we do what we can to push out that campaign, and we're not really looking at the consumer experience with the campaign. Because right now, it's so easy to create an ad, it's so easy to create a social media campaign to reach your target audience, but because we're continuing to try to meet our business objectives, we're not really sinking our teeth and taking a deep dive into if the campaign is working or not. And so here's what I think the future is. I think the future really strives on how we as marketers are able to break away from the traditional digital marketing tactics and focus on building a digital brand. And that digital brand can help to influence the purchase decisions of our target audience. Now, I think that digital branding is the whole puzzle. Now, you're probably thinking, what does that mean? I think that each of the digital marketing tactics are one piece of that puzzle. Social media is one piece. Content marketing is another piece. And search engine optimization is another. Now, if we look at social media, we know that it's pretty much gone from an organic platform to now a pay-to-play platform. Meaning if you don't have a budget when you're dealing with Facebook in particular, you're not going to be able to organically reach your target audience. So gone are the days where we're trying to tweak our message. Maybe I should shorten my status update into 140 characters to resemble Twitter. Or maybe I should add a picture. Or maybe I should add a link. Or maybe I should add a video that's natively uploaded to the platform. Right? There's so many different things that as marketers we would do 3 years ago that has completely changed. The bottom line is you have to have that budget. So I understand that social media marketing is starting to plateau. And then when you think about content marketing, I love content marketing. I mean, that's why we're all here today, right? We're here to learn a little bit more about content marketing. But I want to provide a perspective to you. And that perspective is, as we continue to create content, and as our consumers are becoming savvier, they're starting to know and understand what marketing messages look like. Now, a lot of content is starting to look the same. It's starting to have the same formula. For example, you have a video of someone frolicking through a field of wheat, and you have a motivational message that comes across the screen, and then your brand, right? Consumers are starting to understand what marketers are doing. And so as marketers, when creating content, we have to make sure that we do everything we can to rise above the noise and be unique as possible. And what I always tell my clients is, instead of focusing on continuing to create more content, let's focus on the content that you already have and begin to repurpose that and look at the content that has performed well and then put paid media spend behind that content. I would start that before I even create a whole brief about a new piece of content. And then you have search engine optimization being another piece of that puzzle. Now, we all know if we're trying to strive for high search engine rankings for our organizations, but you have your black hat SEO specialists that are trying to game the system. Google catches up to their practices and then changes their algorithm. And then we lose our ranking position. So it's a cat and mouse game. We have to continuously try to catch up to the Google algorithm so that our brand's content can stay high in search engine results. Now again, when you look at all of these individual digital marketing practices and tactics, you can't look at them singularly or in a vacuum. You have to look at all of them if you really want to create content that reaches the masses. So that's why I believe that digital branding is that piece of the puzzle, because it'll allow you to think about your customer experience when they're searching for your offering online, when they are consuming your content that you've created, or when they have engaged with you on social media. If you consider your digital brand, you would consider all those three and how they work together to convert your target audience. Now, I talked about how consumers are looking at your organization's digital footprint to see if your organization can provide value to them. And I talked about how that digital footprint is able to enhance your digital brand to further influence the purchase decisions of your target audience. So now I want to talk about specifically how to map your digital footprint. Now, I'm sure you guys are familiar with this. This is a traditional sales and marketing funnel. It starts with the awareness phase, your consideration phase, your decision phase, and then your retention phase. This is a very linear funnel. Now, as consumers become savvier, they understand that they're a part of your marketing funnel. If you have a download incentive where you want consumers to come and put their email address in, that consumer probably understands that they're going to be sent some follow-up communication. They're probably going to receive a series of emails that walks them through the different steps of how to use your product or service. And because of this understanding, they're probably going to ignore most of the content that you give them because they may not trust what you're saying. They would rather hear it from their friends or colleagues. So they go outside of this funnel. And because of that, this is what the new funnel looks like. Gone are the days where you have someone come to your organization and then you give them information depending on where you think they are in the purchase process. Because someone may come to your organization's website and they already decided to buy. but you're sending them information that's irrelevant because they already found the information they needed outside of your funnel. Or they come to you and you're one of a few brands that they're looking at patronizing, and you're sending them information about the awareness phase. And so what I'm trying to say here is that this is the new funnel. Gone are the days where you have a linear communication with your target audience. You need to be flexible and build a funnel that focuses on all stages of their purchasing process. And as you continue to build your digital brand, it would address this issue. Based on this quote, 87% of US CMOs and marketing managers believe that branding initiatives needs to be more flexible today than in the past. And that's true. The bottom line here is people are changing. Consumer behavior online is changing. And the content that we create, the engagements that we make, have to adjust and have to be flexible. Because at the end of the day, finding the desired path of your customer is important. And that desired path may be something that's not as structured as you think it is. That desired path is not as linear as you may believe it to be. Because they're working outside of that funnel to make decisions about purchasing your product or service. So, I told you guys about how consumers are focusing on the value that you're giving them, and they're looking at your organization's digital footprint to see if your organization can provide value to them. And then I talk about how that digital footprint can contribute to your digital brand to help influence their purchase decisions. So now I'm going to talk about how you map your digital footprint. First step, simply to document the present state of your digital brand. Well, what does that mean exactly? That means you need to take screenshots of everywhere your brand lives online. Now, for all of my senior managers, I think this is something that you can delegate to your team. If you're a marketing manager, I think this is something that will add more value. If you're an intern, this is something that you can present to your boss and add more value to your internship. So the first step, of course, is to take screenshots of your brand. Then you want to capture every single page of where your brand lives online. It could be some search results based on keywords that are relevant to your brand. It could be social media engagements or social media accounts. It could be content that you have posted before. And you want to save them on your computer, or you can save them in a file on the cloud. But the objective here is to see how your digital brand has changed over time, and it'll allow you to get a bird's eye view of how people are interacting with your brand in the digital space. And what you can do with that information is extremely valuable, because we are so used to creating campaigns, publishing those campaigns, going back to our desk, creating more campaigns, publishing those campaigns, and it's a continuous cycle. So if you have a bird's eye view of your digital footprint, you'd be able to use that to create more engaging campaigns. So, after you have mapped your digital footprint, you may find places where you need to optimize. You may find content that missed the mark. It did not resonate well with your target audience. You may find a promotion that was never taken down, but that people may be still referencing and is currently irrelevant to them. Through your digital mapping experience, you can find information about your brand that you may not have found elsewhere. So, I have some optimization tips for you. I have 3. The first tip is to use data to create content. So you're probably saying, Junte, what exactly do you mean use data to create content? Well, I mean, instead of creating content around your business objective, let's create content around the questions, the comments, and concerns of your target audience first. Once you do that, then you are naturally going to meet your business objectives. 65% of marketers aren't able to determine what content is and is not effective. Because honestly speaking, as a fellow marketer, I know we often get stuck on that hamster wheel of creating more and more content. And what I'm saying is, we should look at the content that's readily available and then begin to repurpose or amplify that content and create content based on what our target audience is talking about. So here's a case study example. As I mentioned earlier, I am the Senior Digital Manager for the University of Southern California, where I lead a small team of people who act as an in-house agency for the admissions, financial aid, orientation, and registration departments. And I want to give you an example of how we use data to create content. Here are questions from students, and a lot of international students, who have questions about what it's like to live and to learn on the campus of the University of Southern California. So what we do is we look for recurring keywords and themes that people are asking, and then we create content to meet those themes. The problem that we had was we would send our target audience information, we would send it through the mail, we would put content on our website, but they would call our call center with questions that were related to the content that we just sent them. So we see there's a gap there. So what we want to do is create content that fills in that gap. Another tip is to showcase your personality. You know, I often get interviews by publications, media outlets, and blogs about what's my number one tip that I would give an organization. My number one tip would be to showcase your personality. And there are various reasons why. The bottom line here is that if you showcase your personality, your brand personality, you are naturally going to get more organic reach from your content. In particular, with Facebook. And I know someone's here today from Facebook that's probably going to mention this as well. But Facebook algorithm has changed multiple times. And most recently, it has started to inhibit the reach of promotional or salesy messages. Because the bottom line here is that the more brands have salesy type of messages that are showing up in the news feeds of Facebook users, it's going to turn off many Facebook users. And when those Facebook users are turned off, they go to other apps. And if that happens, naturally Facebook is losing advertising revenue. So they have to change that algorithm to suit consumers. Because let's be honest, brands have ruined the experience of users on Facebook because they're so used to creating ads immediately without any particular strategy around their execution. So if you have content that is lifeless, no emotion, no personality, this is what I call the brand apocalypse. It means that brands with no life, no emotion have taken over the timeline, and Facebook has adjusted its algorithm accordingly. So if you want more organic reach, if you want to reach the masses, if you want to properly engage with your target audience, nowadays you have to showcase that personality. Optimization tip number 3. As you map your digital footprint, you may find your search engine rankings are either slipping or not where you want them to be. Now, here's a hypothesis I have. This hasn't been proven because Google, they don't release their algorithms. It's not public. But what I know based on the research that I've done, my work with clients, and so on, is that Google is starting to distinguish between branded sites and generic sites. We all are familiar with bots. And bots have created what some may call fake news. And those bots are distributing the fake news. So how does Google know which news is real and which news is fake? I believe that they're going to look at branded sites or branded content as content that should be ranked higher than non-branded content. And so as you continue to map your digital footprint, you want to make sure that you have accounts that are verified. So all of your branded accounts, try to get those verified because I think it's going to contribute to your search engine rankings. Also, if you have an organization that's listed in a trade directory, that's also going to help as well. So try to figure out the directory listings for your industry and make sure that your brand is on those listings. And also try to make sure that your accounts are verified. So, some key takeaways really quickly. So map your digital footprint and use that as a way to build your digital brand and influence the purchasing decisions of your target audience. And those 3 optimization tips is use data to create content. Focus on the consumer, and then you'll meet the business objectives. 2, showcase your brand personality because you will naturally get more reach, especially on Facebook, and improve your brand signals. Make sure that you have branded accounts that are verified. And so I'll leave you with this. For any relationship to be successful, there must be loving communication, appreciation, and understanding. And so as you continue to map your digital footprint, you'll be able to see how your target audience has gone from a prospect to a customer. And it'll allow you to see how they interact with your brand in the digital space. And as great marketers know, until we learn everything we can about our target audience, we won't be able to effectively communicate and market to them. So instead of optimizing and analyzing and tweaking our content marketing campaigns, let's focus on the customer experience first and how they interact with our brand in the digital space. And a great way to do this is to map your digital footprint. Thank you.